Here are the pros and cons of living in Buckhead, Georgia. Pro number one is that Buckhead is right there in the middle of all the action. Buckhead's not like a suburb, it's right there in Atlanta. Technically, it's not even a city yet. It is just part of Atlanta. It's like a neighborhood of Atlanta. And it's right there in the middle. You're not going to have to drive very far to get to places, to get to schools or grocery stores. All of those things would technically be in walking distance when you're living in Buckhead. Just a few minutes south of Buckhead is Midtown. Also, you have Piedmont Park south of there. And so you can really see that Buckhead is got a lot going on. This is where you're going to find a lot of activities, especially like nightlife kind of activities. The best shops and restaurants, the best bars, they're going to be here in Buckhead. Pro number two of living in Buckhead is the Lenox Mall and the Phipps Plaza area. This is where you're going to find some of the best shopping in all of Georgia. Phipps Plaza has Versace, Louis Vuitton, and Dolce. So this is the kind of shopping that you're going to find in Phipps. And then Lenox Mall is a great place for shopping as well, and they're right next to each other. So this little area of Buckhead certainly is the best place for shopping in Buckhead. Pro number three of living in Buckhead is being close to the Beltline. If you're thinking about moving to Buckhead or any of the cities around Atlanta, this is my phone number and my email address. I really would love if you call, text, or email me anytime. Thank you so much to everybody who has reached out. I'm more than happy to help. But the Beltline is like this walking and jogging trail that goes all around the city of Atlanta, but it's super easy to access from Buckhead, so the residents of Buckhead have that easy access to the Beltline. There are also lots of shops and restaurants off of the Beltline. Ponce City Market is one of those. Overall, the Beltline in Atlanta is really one of the biggest draws for many of the residents of that area. Another pro of living in Buckhead is Chastain Park. Chastain Park is right there in Buckhead, and Chastain Park is a nice change of pace from the city life. Keep in mind that Buckhead is not like a suburban area outside of Atlanta. It's very urban, it's very high-rise buildings everywhere. And so to have a park like Chastain Park there in Buckhead is nice, and it's going to provide a lot of green space. It's not quite as big as Piedmont Park, but it certainly is a very popular park for many of the residents of Buckhead. Another pro of living in Buckhead is the luxury homes that you can find here. This is really one of the things that earmarks the area of Buckhead. This is one of the things that makes Buckhead so unique, is that the amount of luxury shopping and restaurants and also the luxury homes that you find there. Currently for sale in Buckhead is 41 Carlton Drive. It's a 6-bed, 9-bath home. They're asking $4 million. Also, 111 Lake Forest Lane is a 6-bed, 9-bath, about 7,300 square feet, and they're asking about $3.4 million. And lastly, 159 East Wesley Road is a 6-bed, 6-bath, about 6,000 square feet, and they're asking $2.6 million. This concentration of luxury homes and upscale living can't really be found in any of the other parts of Metro Atlanta. So this is really one of the things that brings a lot of people to the area of Buckhead. And then another pro of living in this city is the fine dining. Along with the high-end shopping and the luxury homes, you'll also see great restaurants there in this city. The Capitol Grill is a super popular restaurant there off of East Paces Ferry Road. Also, Aria is one of my favorites on East Paces Ferry Road, and Bistro Nico on Peachtree Road. When it comes to finding the best restaurants in all of Metro Atlanta, this is where you're going to find them. There are certainly a lot of great reasons for living in Buckhead, and many people love to visit this area, but there really are some downsides of living here that you should know about. And if you're considering living in Buckhead, some of these things could be a deal breaker. So let's go over some of the cons of living in Buckhead. One of the cons of living in Buckhead is going to be the amount of traffic that you would find there. This area around Peachtree Road is certainly super busy all of the time. And then also like getting on the interstate from Buckhead. So if you're going anywhere outside of Atlanta or even different parts of Atlanta, using the interstate there is pretty difficult. This is where you find the majority of the traffic in Metro Atlanta is right there on 75-85 in the middle of Atlanta. This is also where Buckhead is. So it certainly makes it difficult for getting around, but fortunately, if you live in Buckhead, you shouldn't have to be traveling too far to get to things. In fact, one of the things that is happening there in this city is that they are trying to become their own city. They're trying to separate themselves from Atlanta and create the city of Buckhead. And one of the reasons for that is because they feel like they're being underserved by the police and the fire departments and maybe the emergency medical services there. So this all has to do with the uptick in crime. So lately, what you're going to see there is a much higher police presence. And this all has to do with the residents of Buckhead complaining about there not being enough police or there being too much crime in the area. So when you're going through this area, you're certainly going to see lots of police presence, making sure that everybody knows that they are out and about. Another con of living in Buckhead is that the parking in this area is terrible. In general, the parking in Atlanta sucks. Like, it may be difficult. If you live in LA or New York, you may be kind of used to this, but it's not always been the case. Here in Atlanta, we're now seeing $20 parking, $30 parking. You know, if you're going to the mall or a grocery store or something. So it's certainly not like the suburbs where parking is not a problem at all. In Buckhead, you really can only park in certain areas, and this is a very big difference from living in the suburbs to living in this city or the area of Buckhead. Another downside of living here is that the public schools are not very good. The private schools are good, and many of the residents will send their kids to a private school. But when it comes to public schools in Atlanta and in Buckhead, they're not really the best. You're certainly going to be able to find better public schools in one of the suburbs of Atlanta. And then another downside is the cost of living, of course. I heard one recent study that said if you're not making at least $150,000 per year, then living in Buckhead would be difficult. And this is certainly the case. The cost of living there is much higher than any of the Metro Atlanta areas. So I think currently the average home value in Buckhead is about $900,000, maybe $1 million. So this is certainly something that you need to take into consideration if you plan on moving to this area. And then we can't fail to emphasize that this is not a suburb at all. This is the city of Atlanta. So this is going to be a lot more of a crowded area. The noise, the crowds, all of this comes with living in Buckhead. So if you're trying to live in a quiet, small town in Metro Atlanta, Buckhead is not the right one. Buckhead is like super urban. You're going to be right there in the middle of the city of Atlanta. Now, keep in mind that Buckhead is just a small portion of Atlanta. It's just one area of Atlanta. There are many other different parts of Atlanta, and they're not all the same cost of living. Many of the different parts of Atlanta have much lower cost of living. If you want a full video about the cost of living in all of Atlanta, check out this video. I'll see you there.